Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Live Ones. It is Tuesday, the last day of November 2021, and the insane news from the world of college football continues as the winningest coach in Notre Dame history, Brian Kelly, has announced he's leaving for the LSU job effective next season. And if you don't understand why, all I can say is that we're living through maybe the most dramatic realignment and paradigm shift in the history of college sports right now. We've been talking about it for the last 4 months. The SEC getting Texas and Oklahoma and the scheduling alliance between the Big Ten, Pac-12, and ACC made it very clear what the future is going to be. And Notre Dame's continued refusal to actually join the ACC and give up the money of its rivalry games with the Pac-12, Big Ten, Army, and Navy means it doesn't have a place in the new order. Their recruiting is going to take a massive hit the rest of the decade. I get it completely, honestly. What happened this year was bigger than when the Southwest Conference had their cascade failure in the late 80s and the Big 12 formed out of the ashes. The Big 12 has completely collapsed. And it essentially had to co-opt the best teams from the American Conference. Had to really co-opt the entire American Conference that was worth a damn for itself and call it the Big 12. I don't know how they're going to get away with doing that, but whatever. But the loss of the revenue from Texas and Oklahoma is basically going to make them a minor conference. Texas is the single most valuable athletics program in the entire NCAA. It brings in, all told, $214 million a year, most of it between its football program and its basketball program, and it just climbs every year. Texas, if you don't know, has basically its own television network. These Longhorn fans are absolute fanatics. The Big 12 network is not good enough for them. They need their own Texas network. But the carriage deals that generates is incredible. Oklahoma isn't that far behind Texas with 155 million. The four new universities that are coming into the Big 12, BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF, bring in slightly over $200 million a year combined. And Cincinnati is actually running what for it is a controversial deficit. Look into that if you're interested. That's a little bit of a hubbubaloo going on right now. But basically, we're going to have the Power Four now, and it's going to be almost like the Napoleonic Wars. It's going to be the SEC versus the alliance of the other three conferences, all determined to fight them. But no one knows yet if those three conferences are going to be able to cooperate with each other well enough to get it done. College sports over the next decade is going to be all kinds of fun. Week 13 of college football is over, and that means no more midweek action, but we do have college hoops, NBA, and NHL to cover tonight. Let's get right to it, and we're going to start with one of the biggest college hoops games of the night, Florida State and Purdue. And the number 2 national ranking for Purdue is not hype. They deserve every single last bit of it. This offense is elite, second in the country only to Gonzaga in terms of points per game. They're shooting an insane 53.7% from the floor and 43.5% from the arc. Zach Edey, Jaden Ivey, Sasha Stefanovic, and Travion Williams are all lighting up the scoreboard constantly. They're not reliant on one player to put points on the board anymore like they were back in the Carson Edwards days a couple of years ago. Florida State comes into West Lafayette a bit shorthanded. Naheem McLeod, Tanner Nam, and Raekwon Evans are all out with injuries tonight. Obviously, Evans is the biggest loss, a great two-way guard who leads the team in assists and steals and means a lot to the Seminoles defense. Not having him is going to put a crimp in Florida State's absolute need to make the Boilermakers offense play down to their level. Without him, I think the Boilermakers can easily put up a total in the low 80s. So what can Florida State do? Aside from Evans being out, neither of the other two injuries is going to take many points off the board. The Seminoles offense is upper tier in the country, definitely good for 75, 76 points a game. Purdue's defense isn't nearly as dominant as its offense is, 97th in the country in terms of points allowed, mostly because they score so fast, it just gives the other team an inordinate amount of scoring opportunities and just, law of averages that'll rack up enough points to count up against your defense. I think Florida State can put up mid-60s tonight for sure, so a total somewhere around 149 or 150 is what I'm feeling tonight. So I'm going to ride with the over 142.5 for this game, first official play of the night. So moving over to West Virginia versus Bellarmine. West Virginia keeps getting what are supposed to be wake-up calls against the mid-major schools that haven't seemed to stuck yet. They had to make a comeback against Eastern Kentucky at home on Friday night, and that's, of course, is following a loss against Marquette in the Charleston tournament the week before. Meanwhile, Bellarmine is finding its footing in its second year as a D1 team with back-to-back wins over Central Michigan and Franklin College after they started the year 0-5. But the last of those 5 losses was against the powerhouse UCLA, where they were cutting into that lead through most of the second half. They were not going down. They were not folding their tent. New kids on the block or not, this team's trending in a positive direction. The Mountaineers, it just seems, don't have the talent on either side of the ball to be 17-point favorites against anyone. Their offense is mid-tier at best, scoring 73 a game. Part of that is their pace. I mean, they're 208th in the NCAA in tempo. Of course, Bellarmine is even slower than that at 306th. Their defense is absolutely awful at protecting the paint and rebounding, allowing 46.6% field goal shooting to their opponents. I just don't think a whole lot of points are going to be scored tonight, period, with the pace these two teams played. I think the total is right where it needs to be at 139, so West Virginia should win tonight, but 17 points? No, I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Take the Bellarmine Knights here as the road dogs plus the 17 points. I just got a feeling that West Virginia is not going to blow these guys out tonight. So over to the NBA and the Raptors versus the Grizzlies. It's a short slate, but this game interests me. The Raptors entered this game losers of 3 out of their last 4 games overall and 7 out of their last 9. Memphis isn't in a much better spot as Ja Morant is going to be sidelined for a couple of weeks with a knee injury. The line for this game currently sits at Toronto minus 3.5, which I'd ordinarily take with Morant out, but the Raptors have just been a terrible team to back at home this year. Going 1-9 against the spread, so that's a stay away for me. The total of 216 is much more attractive, especially having been bet down from the opening of 218. These two teams met a couple of weeks ago, and they hit just shy of 240, and that was with Morant playing and contributing to the defensive side of things. On the season, the Grizzlies ranked dead last in the NBA in both defensive rating and scoring defense, surrendering 115.6 points per game. But for the month of November, the one team with the worst defensive rating than them was the Toronto Raptors. So for a total of 216, we're asking both teams to get to 108. Not going to be a problem with how bad these defenses are. Take the over 216 all day. So then last but not least, the NHL and the Wild versus the Coyotes. Arizona gutted out a really tough win last night over Winnipeg, and now they have to go on a back-to-back on the road against one of the absolute hottest teams in hockey in the Minnesota Wild. How much do they have left in the tank right now? Coyotes have been looking better the last couple of weeks, but they're still going to be hopelessly outclassed by the Wild tonight in this spot. The Wild have scored 29 goals in their last 6 games, averaging just shy of 5 goals per game. Coyotes have Scott Wedgwood in between the pipes tonight. He's definitely the better of their 2 regular goalies, but he still gives up goals just based off of the sheer volume of shots he has to face. Arizona's still bottom 5 in the league on defense in terms of shots allowed. I don't see any reason why Minnesota can't get 4 or possibly 5 in the back of the net tonight. Add in 2 from the Coyotes, which they can and do get on the regular, especially in the last 2 weeks. And this total should comfortably go over the 5.5 goals. That is the line tonight. So yeah, give me the over 5.5 goals for this game tonight. 4th and final play for the night. Everyone bet safe, stay safe. Follow us on Twitter at Live One Sports. Check us out on Roku and Fire TV at the Live Ones. Have yourselves a great Tuesday night, and I will see you tomorrow.